And I think we're live.
Hey guys, this is Ashley and Eli.
Hey guys.
Eli is my 13-year-old son, and he helps me on quite a bit of the podcast. Right now, we're not exactly Joe Rogan famous, but probably in the next week or two, we'll hit it. Come on, man.
What? Do you know how many viewers Joe Rogan has?
I'm still not liking the coffee. I think I got the wrong coffee. I think I got my coffees mixed up. We've been cupping today, and
What, have you liked any of them?
We had one or two, but I haven't really fallen in love with anything. I missed a couple of the roasts and went too dark, and I wanted a coffee, and I said, well, I'm just going to drink it, and I wish I hadn't. Yeah, it didn't taste good. It sort of stayed with me, and so we're doing an earlier podcast tonight. But anyway,
Some of you might not be.
Yeah, some of you not be. We're trying to catch some of the California people. I think I just sent one to, I'm pretty sure I sent one to Jenny from Jenny's Jack over in California. And so we're hoping that she'll be able to jump on because we're a little bit earlier. Anyway, I'm Ashley Williams. This is Eli Cole Williams. We are the founders of Legacy Farms Missions in Oklahoma is technically where the nonprofit's registered, but it's also in Kansas
and
here in Cerro Bueno. Amber's in California also.
Everybody's in California.
I can't think of where Jenny's from, but I just sent her an invite just a little while ago, and so I'm hoping that she jumps on. I also, 3 years ago, we founded LF Missions, which LF stands for Legacy Farms. We are changing the names to just make it Legacy Farms Missions. But we also, in late 2009, early 2010, I accidentally bought a coffee farm. And if you guys have been to our website, there's a story on there called Accidental Coffee Farmer.
And we might do a podcast one time. It's just, maybe we should do a podcast and just explain that one time.
Yeah, we probably should. But basically, we were looking for land to build houses on, and it had coffee on it. And
and the other happened?
We got into coffee, didn't drink coffee, but got into it that way. But I think it's an interesting story. My wife wrote it about me. So we'll put that out there if anybody wants to read it. But if you have any questions at all, jump in. I've already got a couple people watching. Thanks, guys. I own Legacy Farms Coffee in Mound Ridge, Kansas. This is technically Legacy Farms Coffee, but it's also the farm we're sitting on now is Finca Williams. The farm up the road is called Finca Juancito, and that's the one we bought in 2010. 2014, we bought this big farm, and I moved my family, which Eli was technically 3 the day we moved here, turned 4 the day after. And so he's lived in Honduras quite a bit of his life. At one point, it was half your life, but I think we're at that little past the halfway point now. So, but he's definitely half Honduran, that's for sure. Which is a good thing some days and a bad thing some days. We were coming down the hill one day, and he finished a snack, and he just threw the trash out the window.
I don't remember that at all.
Mommy hit the roof, and I'm like, well, he's Honduran, so that's a big thing here. The other day, we were following a police car, and they were eating and throwing their trash out, throwing the trash out. So that's just sort of custom here. Let it be somebody else's problem, or maybe it blows over in El Salvador and they don't have to worry about it. But we are on Instagram. We should be live on Instagram now, but it's Legacy Farms Coffee 2010. Should be live on YouTube. That's Legacy Farms Coffee 200. And then we are Legacy Farms Coffee on Facebook. And then I have a Legacy Farms Coffee personal page. It's just Ashley Williams. But I hope you guys can like, share, subscribe. That helps us grow. We generally start out with customer questions. And I saw a post today. And generally, I've got enough to do that I keep my mouth shut about a lot of stuff, which my wife probably wouldn't agree with that. Or she might say that I don't keep my mouth shut about enough stuff. But it had this little scale, and it started out basically at sea level and went up to, I think it went up to like 20,000 feet, which coffee will not grow at 20,000 feet. Our farm is at about 1,250 feet, the one that's called Finca Juancito. No, 1,250 meters. This farm is 1,500 meters, and it's Finca Williams, which is Legacy Farms Coffee, main farm. The chart was showing how it was this one altitude, at the 1,500 altitude, it was saying you get fruity, citrus, and another flavor. That's what you get if you're
So
at
it's
that
saying
altitude.
that pretty much that you get different flavors from where you're growing your coffee.
Exactly.
But it's that I'm pretty sure we've gotten fruity, and we get fruity all the time from where we're at, which is 2,500 feet, or 25.
1,500 feet.
15.
1,500 meters. Neither one of us know where we're at today. 1,500 meters.
Is
But,
where that farm is at, and it's where it's
No, that's
there.
where this one is. This one's 1,500. It's 5,000 feet
Okay.
is where we're at. Or it's actually just a few feet short of a mile on the top of the farm. But here we grow, my belief is, and I think I'm right, which I do most of the time. Often I'm not. But we grow Bourbon, Catuí, Icatu, Lempira, Marciesa, Mario Hippe, Perinema, Geisha, and a variety called Julia. That's the Robusta.
Oh, the Robusta. And are we growing the Anna Cafe or?
Oh, an Anna Cafe 14, which is Anna Coffee 14 would be the English. And so we've got flavor profiles just all over just off the charts. Take a quick look on my little temporary desk there. See if you see the flavor profiles that I printed out. It's got a lot of highlighting on it. It may not be here. But we have, our flavor profiles are all over. Lempira, if you wash it, it has a characteristic of, you're awesome. It has characteristics of chocolate, caramel. If I roast it just right at like a cinnamon, somewhere in that roast level, I get a nutty finish on it. But they're saying if it were lowland, I would be getting that. But in the highlands, I would be getting citrus and all that. I believe the two main factors are the inherent coffees that are, the flavors that are in the specific varieties.
And the roast.
Well, the roast afterwards, yes, but the process.
Process, yes.
So we take this Lempira variety. I just described a chocolate base with caramel and a nutty finish. So that is a Lempira canal wash.
What about
We also do a red honey, and the red honey has hints of chocolate, fruit notes, and it's the exact same coffee grown on the exact same farm, literally right outside this window here.
what about
And, And so if you were to take that same coffee, same altitude, and process it a full natural, on the website, it's called the Fruit Bomb. And it is because it has hard blueberry notes or hard cocoa and blueberry.
or blackberries?
Blackberry, I'm sorry. Not blueberry. He's right, blackberry. And those are some of the flavor notes that are on that exact same variety at the 1,500 meter level. And
just because we process them different.
yeah, process it different. Is that Jonathan playing the radio?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. And so we have the same farm, we have the same coffee. Well, for years we've had the same Lempira. Oh, I love the red honey one because I'll get right back to that one. We've had the same two coffees, a yellow Catuí and a Lempira. We've had those same two coffees growing here at 1,500 meters and in Pavas at 1,250 meters. For years, since we bought that farm, and for years we've had those same two varieties that I grow from seed that I planted in there at two different altitudes, and they give us the exact same. It's the most predictable coffee we have. It's the washed and the red honey. I like your question. The other day I had a beekeeper came in when we were in the States a couple months ago, and he said, "I'm a beekeeper. I want to try the honey coffee." And there's three processes, and then I'll get into detail on the red honey. there's a canal wash. There's actually about 20 different processes.
Three processes that we do.
Yeah, we've tried to master 3 to the best of our ability. And so the 3 ends of the chart are washed, the middle is honey, and the end is natural. And so a canal wash means that when we bring the coffee up to be weighed, it gets thrown in a tank and floated. The floaters go out to another tank to be processed later because they have at least one major defect in the bean. And so the rest of the coffee goes into the mill, and we use a hand cranked diesel engine to process the coffee. That coffee gets pulped. It goes into a holding tank, or sometimes we put it in a bag according to which of the 2 fermentation processes we're going to use. But most of the time, let's just say we're going to put it into a bag. It ferments. It goes into a big ceramic canal, and the women wash it with a wooden rake, and they get all the mucilage off of it, and the bean is nice and squeaky clean. That is a canal washed Lempira. That's the variety we're talking about now. And so that gives us the chocolate base with the caramel, notes of caramel, and a nutty finish. Canal washed Lempira. So if we take the exact same coffee from the exact same plant, from the same lot, everything,
And just,
we weigh it, float it, and then we send it in, pulp it, and then we will we'll either sometimes we ferment it before we pulp it, but
and that would just mean waiting a day or so.
yeah, that means that we put it into bags, cover it with black plastic so it absorbs the heat, gets it nice and hot and ferments, and then we would pulp it. I hope I'm not confusing everybody. Pulping it means taking the cherry off, and then you've got a bean covered in nice juicy mucilage. That coffee goes straight out on the patio. You give that coffee a day or 2, and it's started to turn a reddish color.
Yep.
If you pick it up, it sticks to your hand. If you eat it, it is super sweet. And so they gave it the nickname red honey because it's red, it's sticky, and it's sweet. And so the red honey is our process that we love. But the red honey is actually a nickname that's given to it.
What is the actual name for it?
Well, I mean, that's what they gave it, but it got the red honey nickname because of that. And so because of that process. So many things here, there's not all I say, well, how do you say that? And they're like, well, there's not really a word for it. It's just what we do. And so there's not a word for that. It just got that nickname. But that is a honey process, which means it stays inside of that its own juices. And they'll call it honey water. The stuff that comes off of it when you wash it. So,
And then also there's the natural,
the full natural.
which means, so there's full natural and there's half natural, correct?
There's full natural and pulped natural.
Pulp natural.
Yeah.
So the full natural would just be, we just leave it in the cherry that it comes in for how many days, you think? Just,
Usually about 30 days takes it to dry.
and then we would take the shell off.
It would it would still get floated, and then from there it would go straight out on the patio, and it would dry in its own cherries. So it would soak up its own juice.
And that's
it takes about 30 days, and so that's called a natural process of drying. In Ethiopia and Africa, some of those coffee regions, they just leave it on the vine and let it dry that way.
That's a pretty
But
smart
the
idea.
full natural will give you so much more flavor. It soaks in all that juice.
Yeah.
But if you take the bean out, it's not a full natural. So you have to be very careful with it. So we have these big rakes that look like pancake flippers, sort of. It takes 3 times more 3 times longer to dry it. It takes 3 times more patio space to dry it. And it takes twice the labor to dry it. And so those coffees are 10 times more likely to over ferment and go bad. So that's why your naturals are going to be a lot more expensive coffee. Now, having said that, there's the most common one. If you see a coffee that just says natural, more than likely it's a pulped natural. And that means they leave it in the cherry for a couple of days, rehydrate it, run it through a washing machine, pulp it, wash it, and put it on there. It will pick up a lot more fruit flavors, but it's not a true, fully processed natural.
So they're wondering if honey or natural is sweeter, I think.
Which one now?
If honey is sweeter than natural, or which one would be more sweeter?
I would say the honey would be more sweet. The
natural is more of like a hard coffee.
Yeah, it's a hard coffee. It makes a great espresso. My wife drinks it as a single cup. What I'm drinking now is a honey processed that is hard fermented, and it's tasting a lot like a natural, and it's off-putting to me. I don't like it. Now my wife will drink it all the time. It is my coffee. I grew it, but I don't have to like everything. So I don't like the naturals in a regular cup of coffee. I did a regular pour over, but if I would have done this in the espresso machine, yeah, I would love it because it's got a great crema. It's really acidic. And I like that wang that you get, a little bit of a winey kind of wang because of that. But as far as sweetness goes, the red honey process, but I would do, if you're going to try something, I would try the red honey, either Perinema or the red honey Marciesa. Those are my two favorites out of all the red honey process.
You could kind of tell what Marciesa was because it's literally named after you.
Yeah, the Marciesa on the roasted side will be called Don Ashley. If you roast it yourself, it's going to be lot M4M is the lot number on the red honey processed Marciesa in the green coffee that we have online right now. I still think that so much is subjective, and it makes a lot of difference which coffee it is. On the main one that we do natural process is the Lempira. It tends to be a little more acidic, but it has a good hard fruit punch in it, and so I like that fruity flavor. And then the red honeys that we do are definitely milder, less acidic, a little bit more of a sweeter coffee. Make sure I haven't missed anything.
No, but that's all the questions so far.
Okay, cool. But there was two questions I was going to cover, but I like that. I always like to go over the different processes because so many people get confused. And if you ever look at our roasted side, we've gone and changed up some of the names instead of where it used to just be Lempira red honey process. On the roasted side, it's called El Gringo. No,
Yeah.
Guapo.
Guapo,
The
yeah.
honey process is called El Guapo. The canal wash is called El Gringo.
Because, I mean, for people who are roasting it,
No, this is for people that are drinking it.
for people who are drinking it,
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be a lot less informed than you guys that are roasting. And so the roasting guys know what
Honey or something.
what the honey and what those processes are, in a lot greater. They've done a lot more research on some of the coffees than the guy drinking. Now, there's, definitely exceptions. It's according to how deep you get into the pour over realm, I enjoy doing pour overs.
If you go to Coffee Con, then I don't think it really matters.
Yeah. We went to Coffee Con this year, and everybody there knew more than I did about coffee, I think. So, but that's one of the things I enjoy about coffee is I have a lot of the different coffee methods, and when I say coffee methods, like V60s, Chemex, things like that.
The one for espresso was the natural, right?
The two that I recommend for espresso, I like the Canal Wash Lempira in my espresso. It takes a lot of the acidity out of it, but you're not going to get the fruit. You're going to get a lot of the chocolate caramel notes, and that's good in an espresso. And it's good with the crema, nice crema too. But the one that's going to give you the fruity, the hard fruit and winey is the Lempira Full Natural, and that is lot 26N.
And if you just want to,
Online, if you're buying it green.
and for roasted, it's the fruit bomb.
Yeah, and roasted, it'll say the fruit bomb on it.
That's a pretty good name. Who came up with that?
And it just sort of got that. My customers started giving it that name, and so it just sort of stuck, and we've stuck with it for the last 4 or 5 years. But yeah, this year we had, or last year we had a lot of good days, and we processed a lot more natural. This year we're going to process a lot of natural in our Marciesa variety. Because
Is it good there?
it is, but it had, the reason being is it had a crazy profile. And
What was
I'm looking.
Wasn't it
I'm
like
looking up.
blackberry and cocoa
No,
or something last year?
That was last year, yeah. That was 2022. But in the 2023 crop, the Marciesa had, well, I'm looking for, there it is, the M2N.
Natural.
Mango and ripe fruit
Ooh.
were and that sold out in 2 days. It was a Marciesa, full natural, and mango and ripe fruit were the flavor profiles on it.
So
And it just went, when I started talking about that on the podcast, there was 2 customers that both said on the podcast, I'll order some in the morning. And we had a guy get on while we were talking. He was on the podcast listening, and he got online and ordered every bit we had in stock. And so Patrick and Barry didn't get any. And then the next week's podcast, I mentioned that it was one of the few coffees that I'd never got to drink.
wow.
I wasn't there when we cupped it, and so
That's kind of funny.
and so we about a week later, I got a package in the mail, and the guy who bought everything, he sent me a pound of roasted, and then 2 pounds of green. He sent them back to me so that I could try his roast and I could roast it myself. And
That's
so,
pretty cool.
yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
So can you explain about how we do make up all the lots? Because it's actually kind of interesting.
Who asked that one?
Scene.
Oh, Sean. Man, I hadn't heard from you in a long time, brother. Right now, I mean, we just started picking, so we finished picking Saturday.
The first time last.
And those first lots won't be shipped though.
No.
There's always like little pickings during December, and very seldom those get shipped to the States. We have to keep something here, and so this last lot that we picked ended up on Saturday, last Saturday. We'll probably have about 30 physical lots. Oh, we're going to have Bourbon, Ica 2, Lempira, Marciesa, Perry Nema. I'm probably not going to sell any of the Morrow Heap 8. We're going to put that in the competition again this year. And so last year they didn't like it because we wouldn't let them auction it off after the winners and all were won. And I didn't know that was a rule, or that it's not really a rule. It was just sort of what is normally done. And so we got 4th place last year, and they wanted to auction off our coffee, and I just put it in there because they asked me for some samples, and so I think we got 4th place and 15th place, and so
Well, that's pretty good. Both sides pretty good.
Oh yeah, they made more of a deal that we were white than anything, and it was Eli and I that went up there.
Because we dropped.
Everybody else flew out that morning, and so.
So yeah, we kind of dropped them off early and then just left.
And we sure didn't expect to win because Jonathan and Julia were leaving. I entered my coffee in the Marcala Coffee Fest, and
that
they were
one
leaving.
night.
They were leaving on Sunday, and Saturday night I got a couple congratulations, and then one guy sent me a list of the top 10 places, and I was 4th place.
Wow.
And so yeah, I was pumped, man.
That was a pretty cool
I was
night.
pumped. And so then Julia was supposed to have flown out at 11, which means we drop her off about 10. So but the coffee thing was at 9:30, so we dropped her off at
Like 8 o'clock.
Yeah, 8 o'clock, and then we flew to Marcala, which normally should be about hour and 50-minute drive, but
We shortened it down a little bit.
yeah, we cut her down quite a bit, and so we went there. But we'll probably have there'll be at least 6 or 7 different lots of the Lempira, but we'll have the Lempira in a natural, honey, and in washed, and then we'll have the Perry Nema. We only do it in a honey and a washed. We'll do the Marciesa washed honey and a little bit of natural. Then we'll the Bourbon. I only wash it. It's just hadn't worked out that great other ways.
Well, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it was like 89 honey, and it was a 90.25 washed. And
What about natural? Have we ever tried that?
natural? I've just never liked it.
With that crazy flavor on the Marciesa, we should try some.
Yeah, maybe. Well, we've tried it. I just haven't liked it.
Oh, okay.
it has more traditional. It's going to have something more like blackberry and lemonade. Those were some of the cupping notes on it, and that just didn't seem to work out when we did a full natural on it. But we'll ship about 40 different lots, Sean. It's just we'll have those 6 varieties, and then according to what past history has done, I'll break them up. But we should have a lot of Perinema this year. It's a crop that we planted 3 years ago, so we're going to have more production of it. I'm just shy of 3 years on my Marciesa, but we should have a pretty good bit of it.
And like after the more time you have the plant in, the more
Right. 4 years is when it'll start its full production. But I'm tickled, I've been tickled with what we've had. Last year, I think I had 1,000 pounds of it last year.
that's pretty good.
So,
Next year it'll be full protection. That'll be nice.
we should have 1,500 or 1,800 pounds of it this season. But usually our crop, we rest it for 90 days after it's dried. And so generally we ship, June to July, something like that. So I'm sort of shooting for June of this year to have the crop in the States. I don't think our production is going to go up that much overall. Right now we're battling a lot of cold weather. And so we've got a lot of green coffee on the plants, but we just don't have it. We don't have it ripe yet.
But the good thing is
If I
we have
open the window, you can see it's just horrible fog outside.
Yeah.
And of course, those right over the Toyota hood is the Ika 2 variety. And so I had a friend give me 80 plants of geisha. So they're in full production this year, or they're 2.5 years old. So they're in pretty good production. So I'll have maybe 20 or 30 pounds of green off the
Isn't
geisha.
everyone getting into geisha now or something? Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah,
of geisha.
there's so many people growing geisha. They've had to start an exotic class
Yeah,
in Marcala.
and it was just geisha.
Yeah, and there was a couple other ones in there. They're threatening to put us in it with our Mario Hipe, but if we get in an exotic class, there's very little chance we can compete with the people that have the geisha. There's very little chance of that. With our cupping scores, they did like what they call the international cupping, which is a lot stricter.
And we still got a good score, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, we still got a pretty good score, but like if you get an 89 on a day-to-day score, you'd probably get an 87 on international cupping. It's just a lot stricter.
2
But
points, that's pretty big difference.
well, and there's so many roaster options, Amber, that you can look at. If you get in touch with on my Facebook page, you'll find Jeannie's Java, I think she is, or PM me and I'll connect you guys. Oakland, I'm sort of thinking she's in Oakland, California. She roasts on a fresh roast. I think it's either a 700 or fresh roast 800. And I've got a lot of customers that roast on those. And those are probably $300 roasters, something like that. I'm not sure exactly how much they are. And then I have a couple of the Hucky 500. That's what we use for our sample roasters.
They're pretty good.
Yeah, I like those. They've got a lot of control. They've got a lot of power in the gas. You can really do a nice roast. Sean's got a couple of Pro Bats. And so if that's the route you want to go, but I don't know that there's a better roaster. If Sean could answer that question, I think Probat's the best. I mean, that's just the top of the line. And most people will say that the older version, I know that one of them that Sean has is like this machine that's got like character.
There's a bunch of people who do that. The popcorn popper.
Oh yeah, there's tons of popcorn popper. But the model that I saw that you had out front roasting with a couple years ago when I was there, I mean, those things, they'll sell probably for as much as a new one, close to new price because they're just sought after. They just got these big fat drums, thick drums, and they're just bulletproof, and there's such quality that they just,
They sell.
they all are very expensive, but it's just like, get a Toyota Corolla or get a 500 series BMW, they're both going to get you from point A to B. It's just how you're going to
Quality.
get there.
Yeah.
And I think the consistency that Probat offers. I mean, they got an amazing burner system and air control, and the drums they have. Man, once you get them hot and they soak in that heat. But the machine I've got, it's just your basic machine, and we can do pretty good with it. But it's given us trouble a couple times. Just we got ready to do a big roast the other day, and bearings went out on it. I've said,
but we've had it for a while.
Yeah, we've had it
and then it was.
Well, we've had it 4.5 years.
And then it was like, didn't we get it from somebody else?
No, it was new.
It was new. Okay.
Yeah. Because the glass broke the first day because the guy didn't put heat tempered glass in it, and so the side glass broke the first day, and he sold it to us saying it was like a 60-pound roaster. And after talking with Sean one day, we measured drum sizes, and our drums were almost identical. So I started doing, I think I went down to 23 pounds, and man, it changed everything. It was game changing, putting the right weight of coffee in there. Because I was roasting 35 pounds, and because he told me it's a 60-pound roaster, and and then when I talked with Sean for a while, we figured out, and so I started doing 25, and so pretty much 20 is my sweet spot, 20, 22, something like that. To get my drum warmed up, I'll start it out. My first roast I do at 20, and then I'll do 22. And once I've done a few roasts like that, then she gets really hot. Then I can go ahead and do pretty consistent 12-minute roast with 25 pounds. And I think I'm getting 16.5%, moisture loss or weight loss when I do, just back-to-back roast. And that's, I think that's a pretty good amount. But that's sort of my roast level that I stick to. Now we have to do some dark roast, and if somebody will buy a big bunch of coffee, I'll do a blonde roast for them, but I hate the blonde roast. And I still won't grind it. I don't like grinding it. It's just coffee's just pliable. Yeah. Not to each his own. They're willing to pay for it, I'll spit in it. I don't care. But a lot of the big roasters on the roasters forum, they'll look down on guys that flavor. But I'm like, I'm too small. Somebody wants to Jamaica me crazy or pumpkin spice, I'm gonna slap it to it, brother.
And you gave them some flavored coffee to Anna today?
Today. Yeah, we cupped a coffee today, and she said, the coffee didn't look good, and it was hard to dry, and it took like 2.5 weeks to dry it because the weather was bad. And so I roasted it up, and we were cupping lots that were sketchy today. And it was fine, but it was definitely a mid-70, and then I said, well, at least we don't have much. And then she sort of looked at me, and I'm like, crap. I said, how much do we have? She's like 600 pounds. And I'm like, well, let's go to plan B.
Flavor.
So I took it back, and I put some caramel rum crunch in it and let them drink that. And, of course, it tastes like caramel rum crunch. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with the 75 coffee. It's just not specialty grade coffee. It's still a pretty good cup of coffee. So then
that's what usually we go with for the flavor.
Yeah, so that's what I would flavor. But there's been times where somebody's ordered coffee, and I flavored an 84-point coffee because I didn't have anything else, and I couldn't lose the customer. And so, but we've started working a deal. I'm making a deal tomorrow with Herbert. He's the guy at the mill, and we're going to trade for some coffee that he's already dried that's cupping in that 75 range. And if I buy it from the mill, I can get it pretty cheap. I mean, I can buy specialty grade coffee most of the time way cheaper than what I can grow it for. And so it's sad to say that, but yeah, and he's my friend. He's helped us out a lot. But he's the mill, and he buys coffee at $34 below commodity price, and he cups it. And if it's specialty grade, then he sells it as specialty grade. So I'm trying to trade him. He owes me for a couple jobs we did, so we're gonna we've done for him. We select his specialty grade coffee that he ships to the States. We do the selecting for him. So we clean it and select it for him, bag it, put it in burlap and everything. And so I've been sort of banking up that credit for the last 2 years. So we're trying to get a little truck from him and we'll do some trading because he's got some nice coffees that I don't have. So I'm going to try to get some kind of you know, something I've never had before.
It'd be fun if you had like a different colored bourbon.
Yeah, man, I'd beat my head against the wall. I was at a cupping in Kansas City and there were some Salvadoran growers there. And when we were in the group, they had pink bourbon and he had orange bourbon. He didn't have it that day. But I said, man, I would love, you know, I'll drive over there and get some seeds from you. And in front of everybody, he's like, yeah. But then once I got to Honduras and I started planning the trip, it all fell through. He wasn't going to let me have any seeds. They weren't going to have it. And we found that a lot of times.
I mean,
I like to never got the seeds for the bourbon that I have now.
Really?
Yeah.
For the yellow?
The yellow bourbon that I have. The guy owed me money, and well, he's the guy that wrecked my truck. And so I'm like, you know, this is it. You know, you can't pay for my truck, so this is what I want. I want 1,000 yellow bourbon plants. And so
that seems like a pretty good trade to me.
and I was fine to pay them for them. I just wanted them because nobody would sell them to me.
Because it's just rare, and then
It's rare, it cups well, and they want to be the only ones or have the limited amount of it.
yeah.
And it's the same thing. I scored some Marciesa, which is a genetically made coffee or whatever.
Really?
And it's very resistant to La Roya. It was made in Nicaragua. And so nobody around here had it. And so I got, somebody was offering to sell it, and I wanted like 5 pounds of it. And I asked how much he had, and he's like, well, I got, you know, I think he said 30 pounds. And I said, if you'll sell me the whole thing, I'll throw in another $200. And
Sounds like a pretty good
and
deal.
so he brought that sucker out here, and so I traded with Ramiro's dad to get the Ana Cafe because he doesn't sell his Ana Cafe. So I traded 10 pounds of Marciesa seeds for 400 Ana Cafe plants.
Is Ana
And
Cafe
so-
that rare?
Yeah, it's hard to get.
It's rarer than Marciesa?
At least, yeah, probably.
Okay. That's a,
But it was an actual live plant, so it had a lot more value to me than
that's true. Yeah.
because if you buy seeds, you know, they don't always sprout. And so I could actually go. I actually got to go in and pick the plants I wanted, and so
So
that
you
was-
got like 400 plants.
yeah, I got 400 plants that I got to pick out, and they
Oh,
let us
that's
have 10 samplings to destroy. So we take the plant out of the bag, take all the dirt off of it, and inspect the roots. And so we do a sampling of 10 to make sure that it's going to tell us statistically, you know, it'll give us an idea of how many. If out of 10, 2 of the plants were bad, I probably wouldn't have bought. You know, probably wouldn't have bought them.
Really?
Yeah, that was just too many. If I
Like one, you still would have?
one would be the max. I'm not gonna spend 4 years of my life growing a plant that could be good or could be bad. So if they're not really good roots, then I'm not gonna mess with them.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, we just don't have that much time or money. I'm 57, so it's 4 years to get a plant into production, and
I didn't even know
I'm
that.
just done with that. Or 56, I think. It's one of the two. I'll have to check. But yeah, it's really hard to do. It's hard to get somebody that'll let you have some seeds like that. So when I had that opportunity,
But if you do, you're really lucky.
because there's so I traded him like 8,000 Marciesa seeds for 400 Ana Cafe 14 plants.
But I mean, you have a little bit of a head start.
Mm-hmm. He wasn't able to get them in the ground that year.
Yeah, and his were already starting to grow.
And his so far has only cupped 84.5. And last year, my best cupping was 86.5.
It's pretty good.
So
It's not a bad
we're
cup.
still doing. My cupping is great, but the crazy mango red fruit, my Perinamas, and Sean, if you're still listening, the Perinama is the one that's crazy.
It's like different every year or something? Or?
Well, it went from, it was 86.5s and 88s. Both of them came from the same lot. One of them was sugar cane, honey, and grapefruit. Those were the flavor profiles on it. The other one was honey, grapefruit, and dulce de leche.
Isn't that
Dulce
like
de leche is the sweet stuff sweet caramel stuff you put on top of.
like a pudding or something?
of Tres Leches cake. And that's a 3 milk cake that they grow here.
Grow? Here?
It's that they make here. I'm sorry, we're talking about growing. My dentist is asking when I'm coming. No sooner than I have to, brother. Because the last cap she puts on keeps falling off. So that's why I'm chewing on my left side. Well, there's so many things that are important on the roasting side.
Yeah.
And I mean, on the like coffee, to the coffee, everything has such a key thing. But if we can get it out of the field and get it to the States, excuse me, with good mid 80 scores, then people like Sean can take it the rest of the way because he does everything. Because I think last time I was there, Sean was working on a van. And so he's got like this big mobile coffee thing. But you also have a coffee shop and you have a big roastery. So you're doing all those aspects. But I was talking to somebody today about grinders. They were talking about how the grinder that they just got and the grinders. I never thought much about grinders, but we've tried a lot of different grinders, and I trade for a lot of stuff.
We've traded for most of our grinders, honestly.
Yeah, almost every one of them. We bought the smaller little lap grinders and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, the big boys, the GH2s and GH3s, and then we've got some of those EK43s.
Which ones are those?
It's the one we call C3PO.
Oh, the big ones?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, those things are great. We use those for fundraisers.
Really fast.
They're really fast and they do a great grind.
And they can hold
Yeah, you can. We got an extension that we can put like 8 or 9 pounds in there, and they, just keep feeding it. And we have a 5-gallon water bucket we put on top of it and fill that with coffee, and they just run like champs. And we've had them for 2 years now, and they run them all the time. And they grind probably thousands of pounds of coffee a year. But I think it's a German grinder. It's Malcatone or Mal something. I forget what it is. I can never pronounce it right.
It is German, so.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Malcajon or something?
Something like that. Malcajon. That sounds more like it. Yeah. But we've got a couple. I don't know if they're GH2 or GH3s, and then we've got 2 of the EK43s or something like that. It's something 43.
Yeah, but like each one has like little things. We can have one for flavor and.
Yeah, and they're good because even when we do flavored, they grind so clean. Yeah, that's right, Sean. I think it's called an EK43. We've got a couple of those, and then we've got a couple of the GH2s, and I love them. I really like them. They're loud, but other than that,
isn't that why Mr.
Yeah, the guy got them from. He used it for a little while, and he said he ordered the Deating. I think it might be a 1203 or something like that. He ordered 5 of those because the 43s were too loud, he said. And I'm like, well, I understand that completely.
Yeah, we'll take them.
What do you want for them? But when he's ready to get rid of something, he's ready to get rid of it. So I love that guy.
I mean, yeah, he's got a good shop going.
Yeah, and I think last year he sold 128,000 pounds of roasted coffee in little old Wichita, Kansas. But he buys 30 bags a year. He's got sort of a standing order for that many.
Which is really nice once we get the container.
It's nice. Yeah, that gives us a shot in the arm right before we export the coffee. He pays a month in advance. And that helps us a big, it pays for our container and all that. And so, yeah, it works pretty well. That was the other customer question that we'd had. It wasn't a customer really. It was somebody that had been watching the podcast. Was asking about exporting.
Exporting.
And they had a friend in Guatemala and want to know if they could bring their coffee over. For whatever reason, they won't let you do that. I know there's been a couple of times where the low-grade coffee got really scarce over in Salvador. And we literally had somebody that says, if you'll bring the coffee to the border, and we live near the illegal border where the cartel crosses. but it's a nice road, and so nice enough. He said, if you'll bring it there, I'll send guys over and they'll grab it and walk it across the border to my truck. And so when he said it that way, I was like, well, that sounds sketchy. It probably is sketchy. Why wouldn't you just drive on across? And so there's a law that says you can't do that. I'm sure there's some kind of importing paperwork and all that you can do, but so they generally don't move coffee. So I wouldn't be able to bring Guatemalan coffee over here and sell it for them. So there was somebody that was asking about that today.
That makes a little more sense.
A little bit, yeah. But we do border Nicaragua, Guatemala, and El Salvador. So, we would have a lot of options to buy coffee. And actually, later on this year, we're finishing up a building and we're going to build some bathrooms and a pavilion. And we're going to start getting people come over from Nicaragua and live here for like 4 months and just work on the coffee farm.
That would be nice for sure. Definitely more workers.
Because they're making that socialist jump into communism almost, and so there's just the work shortages everywhere. Here we're having labor shortages because everybody's running to the United States, and literally there's hundreds of people here that are going to the United States. And some of the guys, they go over there and their families never hear from them again. And so we're getting a lot more female workers because their husbands are in the United States and they're not sending money back. And so I had a lot more women picking, but and I like that because they're really good pickers and they're very they pick just the red and just the right ones. Hey, Amber, if you'll go to like Google Satellite and punch in Legacy Farms Coffee, it's CERRO Bueno.
BUENO.
BUENO. Let me see if I'll type that in the comments. Did I? Cerro Bueno, Honduras. If you'll type that in, Legacy Farms Coffee, Cerro Bueno, Honduras, you should be able to get a satellite view. And you'll see in the middle of the farm, there's going to be one little lonely building out in the middle of the farm. There's a main road up above us, but you'll actually see coffee on the drying patios. And you'll see
cool.
There's 2 or 3 main structures. One of them's our little house. But you can find where we're actually at if you want to look on Google Maps.
And then it's also,
and I'll have him run out in the yard and wave his hands. And then
it's also Mound Ridge, Kansas.
Yeah, and the other Legacy Farms Coffee would be Mound Ridge, Kansas. That's where we roast the coffee too. And I got the idea from Sean. I went to his place one day and he had some shipping containers out there. So I went home, bought me a shipping container, put it inside of our barn, and that's where we store our coffee.
It's as simple as that. You just click a button and it's all done, right?
There you go. So when the coffee comes in on the regular shipping container, a little 20-footer, we built big racks inside of a 40-foot high cube container. And so we'll start stacking the coffee according to whether it's Bourbon honey or Bourbon washed and Icatu or all the different varieties and stuff have their own rack. And so then we pull off of that during the year when we're shipping it out green or shipping it out roasted.
It is. I mean, we have.
Oh, yeah. We are, but currently right now, I mean, right outside this window is the coffee farm. And it's 55 to 60 acres of coffee. We don't really know because of the technology to actually do all the, mapping it.
Is expensive.
It's pretty expensive. They wanted $3,000 something to actually map it.
No.
And so I didn't do that. But yeah, for me personally, about half the year I'm in Honduras and half the year I'm in Kansas. And when I'm there, Eli rides with me most when we do mission talks at different churches and meet with different people trying to raise money for the mission side of it. Which if you don't know, on top of the hill here on the farm, we have a church, we have a library, hopefully June or July. What?
A clinic?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we do a couple clinics a year. And we're building a dental clinic. So I just went up there today We're going to try to go up maybe Saturday. I'm hoping we can paint. The weather's supposed to warm up, so we're going to paint the dental clinic, finish installing the last of the shelves and stuff in there.
And then,
But we also, the very top floor is going to be a coffee shop, hopefully in June or July.
and maybe sometime we would do like a kids classroom.
Oh, yeah.
We're hoping.
Wednesday, the contractor comes and is going to finish up the kids' classroom. The church is getting a little bit too big, or the kid is growing a little bit too fast, and we're having to build another classroom for the kids. Right now, they're in the library, and that doesn't work out very good. They get into the books too much.
Yeah.
The dentist, Richard, is coming up on the 28th. So Eli and I are kicking Jonathan out of here on the 26th.
And then
28th, who are we kicking out?
mother.
Kicking out Julia. And at the same time, there's a flight coming in. Well, the flight will come in, and that'll be the one Julia flies out on the 28th.
Wait, so
And,
the guy who's coming, the dentist, is
Yeah,
getting
Dr.
off.
Lip's going to be here. No, Davis. Sorry, I forgot his name. He's a
I hope he
dentist.
doesn't watch this.
He's a dentist, and he's coming to sort of look over the project. And I'm hopefully he and his wife will be here for 4 days. And so we're going to show them the farm, show them the project. And it just works out. We're having a kids' day. The goal will be 100 kids to come to the church building that day. And we've got so many games. It's not even funny. We've got cornhole, but we filled the bags with coffee. And
It's coffee hole.
be sacrilegious not to do that.
Exactly.
But we have coffee hole.
And then there's a
and
bunch of
Jonathan,
games.
He built a second set of them.
And then
But yeah, we've got tons of games.
washable floors
A group from
for chalk.
Texas came up, and they forget what it's called, Cookies and Crumbs or something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
And
Something
they
like that. Coffee and crumbs.
they brought it makes sense, doesn't it? Because they're a coffee shop. They brought tons of games, and then we've been bringing games for years, and the boys got games, and so we just got all that stuff up there at the library.
And then of course books at the library.
I think we just hit 770 books in the library.
So if you get us 30 more, we can get to 800.
There you go. My goal was 1,000, but I mean the kids are enjoying it. They don't read as much, it's as we'd hoped. A lot of them say it's a lot like school, and I'm like, well, but you get to pick the books you read, and you can read when you want to.
And it's fun books. Try to
But
get fun books.
we have in February the 15th, schools will start back again. Because right now they're out for picking season, so they'll start back again.
And then we'll get a little bit more reading, probably.
Well, at that point, then we'll have 4 schools that actually come to us every week,
Yeah.
and they'll do an hour of school. They were doing 30 minutes of English, but we don't have an English teacher right now. And then
You
they do
don't
an
have-
hour of playtime, and that gives the teacher a couple hours where she doesn't have to do anything. So, and the kids get to go to the library because the schools here don't have libraries.
Try to get on that. It's in the book list.
Julia's got one that I'll have her put back up on Amazon. The problem right now is getting the books to us. We lost our line through the military
Yeah.
base, so we're trying to get an FBO of our own at the military base. So I'm going to work on that here in the next couple of weeks. Yeah, it has to be Spanish, and a lot of people send them to the house, and we just bring them in as we go.
Or Spanish and English.
Yeah,
Those
the
would work
bilingual
well.
books. The kids really like the bilingual books. And even if it's so you want to learn English or if it's a story, excuse me, the Dr. Seuss books, so many of those come bilingual. It's crazy. And the kids really like it because it's very simplistic, English and Spanish. It's nothing complicated. And so I see the kids, even 10, 12-year-old kids are reading, Cat in the Hat, and they're trying to pick up some English.
Yeah, so bilingual or just solely Spanish.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. What kind of level are we looking for? Like ages?
All ages. and even women's book, basic plumbing, basic electric, some things like that, basic mechanic, stuff like that. Those kind of books. Yeah, we had a librarian one time get us a lot of retired books, and those were pretty cool.
That would be perfect.
We've got a little English section of about 30 English books, and that's probably about all they need.
Yeah,
But I want something for men, maybe to get men in there, and so I'm thinking those books would be nice. The anything, the women's devotional books or anything like that in Spanish would be nice, because I'd like the moms generally bring the kids, and so I want something for them to be doing, to get them to stay. So maybe we have a book for them.
Yeah. Just wondering, are we frozen on your guys' screens? Because looked like we had a little bit of.
Did somebody say we were freezing?
No.
I'm freezing myself. It's like
No, it was
it's
just a
like
little
58
icon or
here.
It's not. It's like 60. Oh.
Yeah, I feel cold. I got on like an insulated shirt, and then this is my COVID shirt because it's bleach stains all over it. For during COVID, man, they were slopping bleach around there like crazy.
You had to step into like a mat with bleach when you went into a store or something.
Yeah, when you went into a store, they'd have like a mat put inside of a bucket. You'd have to like stomp your feet in the bleach. Then you go with the other little bucket or a tray, and you dry your feet off. And some of them you'd have to hold your feet back, and they'd spray it. Then they'd spray your hands with cleaner. And
remember when we were going to the airport and they like stopped us and pulled us out of the car and sprayed the tires?
Yeah, they sprayed and they sprayed inside of my truck with bleach, or it was some kind of a COVID killing potion they had. But we had to all get out of the truck at one of the posts. I forget what they call them, but they had all these guys in suits, hazmat suits, and we had to all get out. They sprayed the bottom of our shoes. They sprayed the tires on the truck. And inside the truck was something. And then they let us go again after that. And they checked all of our embassy paperwork and didn't like that. So then they took us to the jail. And we had to go there until we can get 2 different signatures on a piece of paper that gave us permission to go on through the town. I'm like, well, if you hadn't drug us into town anyway, we'd have been on the way a long time ago.
Yeah, if you don't want it to spread, then why are you not letting us just go through?
But it definitely didn't hit them as hard as it did some places. So maybe all their little extra stuff. But actually, May of 2023 was the first time I didn't have to go into the bank with a mask on. And didn't have to get my hands sprayed when I went in the bank. And the same thing with the May of 2023, they dropped the regulations to go in the grocery store and all that. So they took it serious, brother.
Yeah.
And a guy with a machine gun tells you to put on a mask. I don't care what your political views are.
Put on a mask.
Because we were driving down the road, and a lot of the police checkpoints, there'd be like 10 guys with machine guns. And they're just watching the cars, and you just slow down, drive on through. And the guy stopped us and said, put on your mask. And I had my gloves on, because at that point we had to wear gloves too. And so I said, it was just me and my wife and my 2 boys. And he's like, put on your mask. I'm like, okay. So we all put on our mask and drove on through the checkpoint. And then took it off. But yeah, it's a different world down here.
Wow, you're such a rebel. You took off your mask.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I didn't wear it much in the States, but I wouldn't try to purposely disrespect somebody, but I'm like, this thing ain't stopping him. If it's a little bug that can get in there and kill me, it can figure its way past the mask. But
unless you got one of those like white or black ones.
Yeah, I mean, I've got some with double respirators on them that we spray toxic chemicals with, for the apocalypse, or whatever. But yeah, I never was a big masker, but we won't get into that tonight. We're not going to get into politics of everybody crossing the border, and I can't get my coffee picked. Then we're not going to get into
other politics. Yeah, politics talk is done for tonight.
But anyway, we'll get offline one of these days and talk some. Richard, Just
got
been
some
drinking the Marciessa Natural. Yeah. I think
Dude,
Richard, you're the one that sent me some back. I'm like, well, he's my favorite customer. If he'll buy my coffee and then send it back to me, man.
That's awesome. You should have just sent back all of it.
But yeah, I mean, I enjoy drinking my coffee, trying other roasters that have roasted my coffee. Because I don't know if Sean's still on or not, but I've had my coffee at his place a couple times, and definitely feel bad about the coffee I put out after I leave his place, after he roasted mine. I think I actually have one of the bags from Copper Canyon up on the wall where you roasted some of my Lempira, I think it was, and sent it home with me.
We got a bunch of bags up on the wall.
Yeah. But yeah, and I think we use a very similar bag. But no, it's definitely humbling to go and try your own coffee, in different places because, I'm definitely not, and I tell my customers, I'm not the best roaster in the world. I have more practice on my coffee than some people do. And I guess I know its ranges and what I can do with it and how dark I can push it if I need to. But I try a couple times a year to buy some coffee from other countries and stuff like that just to play with it. Right now, I've got an Indian Robusta that I roasted the other day. And
how's it taste?
it tastes great, but I can't really figure it out.
Like the flavor puff?
Yeah, I haven't roasted it to what I think it could be. But Robustas really aren't your best coffee in the world anyway. So I think it tastes pretty damn good.
For sure.
Yeah. But boy, you can taste it because I drink a lot of coffee.
You also can apparently talk for an hour without that many stops.
Yeah, I can just keep going. Somebody said I'm going to still be moving about 3 hours after I die. Just from the caffeine still working through my
talk
body.
for like 5 hours one time?
We went to Joplin, Missouri, where you went too.
Yeah, I didn't
We did a
talk that
podcast.
much stuff.
And had no idea, but it was one of my, and I love everybody that's had me on their podcast, but it was definitely one of my favorite ones, except for I had to go to the bathroom so bad there at the end, and I was so hungry I couldn't see straight.
Why didn't you just say that? He knows how to edit.
Well, I didn't think about that because most of our podcasts are live like tonight.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. And we could have been live that day. I don't know.
No, he was recording it.
Oh, okay.
Who do you
Yeah,
think?
well, I should have went to the bathroom in hindsight. But
Who do you think's gonna
it was
listen to it?
very, definitely like a Joe Rogan style thing because we just talked and, Eli was
3
right
mics,
in
3
there.
headsets.
Yeah, and so it was a great podcast. We had a blast. But I was getting hungry. But it was
We went there.
4.5 hours or closer. I don't know.
It was like 5.
It was a long podcast, man. And I think it's called Sci-Fi and Friends or something like that.
Something like that, but it's
Colton Seifert is his name.
yeah, it's
A great guy. He came by the other night, and
right to our family.
I just loaded him up on green coffee.
Yeah, to the family.
Yeah,
Christmas thing.
he's related through marriage too.
Yeah.
But still a good guy. But I knew I was leaving, so I gave him all my little pizza bags of stuff that I've been hoarding for myself.
But he was
So-
happy with that.
Oh yeah, like it's your birthday, man. But I enjoy roasting. It frustrates me when some people roast my coffee and don't really take any time with it, just are cranking it out, flavoring it, But
But if they enjoy it, then that's all
it's
that
the
matters.
market, and as long as their check clears,
yeah, I was about to say that too.
I found a new candy bar I've been trying out, so
Yeah, no.
I like to drink. I like a little bit of chocolate sometimes with my coffee.
Or
And this
your
coffee
bread.
I'm not enjoying that much, so I'm popping some chocolate every once in a while.
More chocolate than coffee.
P3M. Yeah, it was caramel and citrus were the notes on P3M this year.
And then
It was definitely a different coffee.
so I think we are planning to do some Marciessa Natural this year.
Oh, definitely, because it went over so well last year.
And then what about
And I pulled the notes on it, the growing notes and the picking notes on it the other day.
How much Robusta do you think we're gonna have this year?
Oh, maybe 2 pounds. It depends if I process it or if I make it into seed.
Yeah, it's fun to have some Robusta in a couple of years.
I've had one big Robusta plant out there, and I just pick it and I drink it for myself. And then last year I put it in the Ramada, and I think we planted 200 plants
So in a couple
back
of
in
years,
September.
that's gonna be a good amount of Robusta.
I hope so. Yeah, the variety is Julia. I don't
Is
know
it
if that's the
actually?
nickname variety or. Well, I mean, there's an Anna Cafe, so there could be a Julia.
I thought that's just always what we called the plant.
Mm-mm.
Oh,
No, that's why I got it, because I was in El Salvador.
Oh.
And the guy said, this variety's Julia. And I said, well, can I have a couple of them? And he gave me 2 of them.
and then
And,
it's a Robusta.
yeah, it's a
Right.
Robusta.
It's
And it's a nice coffee too.
Yeah.
And I was really curious if it was actually Robusta. So I really need to get somebody out here that knows more about it than I do, that can tell the difference, you know.
but I mean, it'd be a stronger, more caffeine.
Yeah, it's definitely going to have double the caffeine. And this year we've been talking to K-State, and they're going to analyze all of our coffee cherry tea, because we've had some really nice coffee cherry tea. And we're talking to the competition over in Marcala. I'd like to get the cherry teas in the competition.
That would be real. That was like the
see.
one thing that we had at like the coffee con. That was everybody was liking like cherry tea.
Mm-hmm. We went to Chicago. We were invited to speak at CoffeeCon back in October.
October, yeah.
And the coffee cherry tea that we gave out was the biggest hit of anything.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
it was. We were just the only ones who had coffee cherry tea.
Yeah, we're definitely the only ones that had it. But
So we're gonna
it,
bring
re-
more
it
next
really
year.
went over well.
Yeah.
And I was tickled to death with it. But we've got 4 different varieties this year.
I think it's pretty fruity. Yeah.
Doesn't taste anything like coffee. It's the cherry that the bean grows in, Andrea. And so we pull that bean, when the day we pulp it, we have to set up the machine a little different, because normally the pulp goes into a lake that we use for our organic mass. So we set it up and we put brand new bags out there to catch it. We cut the water back so that we're having to like pull it out so it doesn't get any flavor juice washed off of it. And then currently it's laying out in the field right beside. We've got some Anna Cafe 14, and then we've got the coffee cherry tea, and we dry them side by side.
And I think how much caffeine would you say it has in it?
That's why we're sending it to K-State, because I was told when they taught me how to process it that it had about 20% of the caffeine. And they said the reason it didn't have much caffeine is because the bean pulls the caffeine out of that cherry in order to get its caffeine. It sort of made sense to me, but I didn't put a lot of thought into it. But then I've got customers that say, you know, just crazy amounts of caffeine in it. But I was cupping them today. And so I think we did a half a dozen teas today. So I couldn't really tell anything much, you know, but I may be speaking fast now. But we cupped a few of them today. I really can't tell it's got that much on it. Now, there's been days that we've cupped 30 or 40, and you can definitely tell, because when I cup, I do the slurping and all that. But then I'll just sit back and just drink a little bit and sip a little bit of it and swish it around a little bit and try to get the flavors of it and actually drink it. So I probably consume a lot more caffeine when I'm cupping the teas and the coffees than a normal person would.
Have we had any Anna Cafe that's went on like to be ordered
That's been what now?
so that people can order?
No, last year's crop, there was like 11 pounds or something like that. This year's crop, the first picking was 413 pounds. The second picking was 378. So that's right at 800. That'll make 100 pounds of roasted coffee, be 120 pounds roughly of green. So yeah, there's going to be quite a bit of Anna Cafe 14 this year compared to what it was last year.
Well, that's pretty
And
good.
so yeah, that's really good from 350 plants.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm tickled with it. They really produced well, and they're shy of 3 years, being 3 years old. So they're doing really well. And we still got another picking on them. So, but yeah, we'll definitely have that as a green offering. Right now I'm washing some. You might need to move your chair back just a tiny bit or something. But anyway, it's definitely going to be a crop that we're excited about. I didn't have it cupped by a professional, and I should have, and I will this year. But last year I didn't realize I was going to have much at all, so we just didn't fool with it. And it's it's $15 a sample to have your coffee cupped. I think John may know more about it in the States, but I would imagine it's $60, $70, $80 in the States. And so we can't do the, we can't afford to cup it there. And the guy that does it here is great. I mean, he does the Cup of Excellences, and he's done them in different countries. He's pretty well known, and he's a good, solid guy, and he's real strict. He's always a point lower than what the government cupper is. And so we go with his scores instead of the government. You'll never get a score from me that says eCafe. It's always going to say Dominion origin, which is where Better works at.
Oh, Better's the one who usually does it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's our cupper. Or he's the cupper there. And so we've joined that group this year so that, just to be more into the group. And we're actually now that we won, we're going to get to use the Marcala logo. They bought their own logo. And so you can't use the word Marcala in your coffee unless you're a part of their group. And so, because Marcala is a pretty well-known region.
So since we got fourth
So
place,
yeah, they'll give us stickers to put on our bags now. And
that's going to be fun.
I don't know if I will or not. They were so snooty about it for so many years.
Maybe just one on the wall.
Yeah, we'll take the stickers and we'll put them on stuff. It might be on my bicycle, I'm just kidding. No, I'm proud that they invited us in. I mean, it's an honor to be in those groups and stuff like that. And it's taken a lot of years to do it, but I still give them a hard time. But yeah, we've enjoyed a lot of the journey. Some of it's frustrating, but
I think that the tea does have a lot of antioxidants in it.
yeah. I don't market it, but they said it had 6 times more antioxidants than blueberries.
Maybe
I'm
not
skeptical of a lot of
but
things.
At least it has a lot.
What we've been talking to K-State about is what analysis they can do and what it's going to cost us. Because the coffee cherry tea, the Robusta that we grow, and then I'm going to pick a couple of our regular coffees and just have them tested for caffeine. We do our own basic mold testing here. All the coffees, as soon as they hit the table, we've got a bunch of black lights, and so that's what we use, for that. So we'll pull the curtains, run the black lights through the table every time, and then we use a black light flashlight out in the Triga house where we de-hull it, and then we randomly check it in the drying houses. So we try to keep a pretty good eye on it, and we've never had a coffee that said it had mold in it. We've had some coffees that I know are over fermented, and you tend to get a chemical, or they call them pharmaceutical sometimes.
That was funny though. One time we got like a
30.
It was like chemicals or something.
Better thought it was funny to not just reject the coffee, but to go ahead and give me a full analysis. In the cupping notes, he put pharmaceutical and chemical, and then on the score, he gave me a 30. And so,
what do we do with that coffee?
We just threw it out.
Oh,
Yeah, it was like 180 pounds of coffee. And it was one that we talked about earlier about how much patio space it takes to do a full natural.
it was a full nut.
It was a full natural Eka too, and it over fermented. And from what my understanding is when you start the fermenting process, if you feed it like yeast and I don't know what else, it's like making a wine. But if you don't do that, the same process has happened, but it'll just start trying to make alcohols and it just goes south and it just ruins the coffee. And so that's what happened to it. And it's happened to us in the past. I've thrown out as much as like 2,000 pounds. The first year I had a guy who said, "Oh, I know all about it. Let's do it." So we did, and the whole batch ruined. So we only do it under specific weather conditions. and we've tested enough coffees that we only do it with certain coffees. I've never had a decent palatable Perinema and a full natural. The reason the M2N lot, that Marciesa natural, was is such a small lot because it was just a test lot. I took X amount of coffee, like 500 pounds, threw it out on the patio, and processed it just to see what it would taste like as a natural. And but this year we'll do a couple others natural if the weather permits. But otherwise, the naturals seem to hold up really well. So I mean, not too long ago, I tried a 2020 natural that I had just put back for the purpose of trying it. So it was right at 3 years old, and it still tasted great. So I think there's truth into the if you age the coffee for 90 days in parchment, it extends the shelf life of the coffee once it's green. I think there's a lot of truth in that, and so we pretty much stick to that. But that also makes it more expensive for us to ship, because when we ship, there's not a lot of other people shipping their coffee. So we'll have to put our coffee in a container by itself, rather than if we filled the container, we could save a lot of money, by doing that. But
the container usually is pretty full.
Yeah, we have 220 something like that bags a year. I think it'll hold like 285 or something. I'm not sure.
But it's not bad. Still.
Sean's done containers. He might know more about how much you can put in there. But I think we ran over our hour, hadn't we?
Oh yeah, we're like 16 minutes.
Oh, okay, cool.
Only 16.
Well, guys, thanks for coming on tonight. I've had a lot of good questions, and we've had a lot of people watching and got a lot of likes and stuff. But please share us with some of your friends. Anybody that thinks coffee's interesting, let them know a little bit. Next week, we're going to try to have like a quick interview with somebody. I'm going to get one of the workers and interview them. The eco, I think all the coffees hold up the same as long as they're aged the same. They're all in the same storage facility. They all the concrete walls, we cover them with thick nylon, so there's no moisture transfer. Every 30 days, we rotate the coffees so they spend the same time on the top of the pile, middle of the pile, bottom of the pile. There's a couple fans in there to keep the air going. There's a big dehumidifier in there, to keep it at a certain humidity. We shoot for around 55%. But once we lock that building down like that, the dehumidifier doesn't run that much, except for times when it's foggy like this or when there's heavy rain.
Honestly, I think I learned more just being on the podcast and just living on a coffee farm. You explain a lot more details on the podcast.
And a lot of times things are going 90 miles an hour in Spanish when you're around. And so it's harder to keep up with sometimes.
Yeah, but I think everyone, I think Andrea said she learned a lot, and I do all the time. I don't think anyone knows everything about coffee.
No, and I'm going to do some researching on that pyramid thing that they were talking about, altitudes and how they affect flavors. I'm going to do some more research on that. And we'll definitely hit it on next week's podcast. I'd love to do a podcast Sunday because the weather's supposed to break. So I might do one Saturday and Sunday. But for sure, Sunday afternoon, we're going to do one on the back porch where you can see the mountains in the background and not this blue rag hanging off the thing. But
we might just have to use
well, we were going to do a blue screen, and I forgot.
Yeah.
We ran out of time. The day went long today, and we had about 30 minutes to prep for it.
And someone wanted to have coffee. And
I said, I need 10 minutes of that to have a coffee. And I made a pot of coffee, sat down, and I'm like, well, I don't like this. So I poured it out and made another one.
And by that time...
I'm like, I don't like that one either. So I don't know what's wrong with me today. Maybe I got the COVID.
Not again. Stop.
All right, guys, I'm going to shut up. Thanks for coming on. Remember, so we'll be back on Sunday, and I'll try to post that as quick as I can and put the links out there. But thanks, guys. You guys make it all fun. And we'll talk to you again soon. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.